Hello everyone, and welcome to Synthrecipes episode 3. And today I'm going to be showing you how to make this sound. So this sound is in essence the Organ 2 patch from the Korg M1 synth. This is a really famous synth sound. It gets used in a lot of tracks from the 90s. I think the most common example is Show Me Love by Robin S. It's a really famous old school house song, and I'm not going to play it here because of copyright reasons. But yeah, this sound isn't particularly complex, but it was surprisingly difficult. And not because the sound itself is fairly simple. It's like a pluck with a little bit of a filter envelope and some reverb and delay. But it's a complex waveform, which makes it kind of difficult to nail down, because you're not working with your traditional basic waveforms like you'd see on most analog synths. And for that reason, I think it's more important that I explain my process of making the sound and not the patch itself, because I think there's a lot that you could get out of that. So my first thought, since it was an organ, was to go through different organ sounds and try and get something kind of similar and then work with that. That didn't work out as well as I had hoped. I was using Contact for that, and none of the I went through a whole bunch of presets and nothing really caught my eye. I'll play a little demo. That's sorta I actually don't know if this is the exact thing that got me kind of close, but it's sort of in the same vein. And just none of them really had the right overtone series. And I just sort of gave up on this. So then I turned to YouTube, and I was surprised that there weren't more videos on this, because this is a really famous sound, and I would think that there would be at least a decent Serum preset video. I found a bunch of videos on the sound, but none of them were really all that helpful. The one that was a Serum video was, the sound was just not good. It was so far off that I just decided not to bother with continuing. Then one of them, the guy literally just used the Korg M1 VST and pulled up the preset, which I don't think really helps anyone, because you're not synthesizing anything there, and you don't really learn how to make the sound. Then another one that I saw was actually really spot on. The guy used two different layers. One was FM8, that was a sub layer, and then the top layer was, I think it was Dune. It is one of the not famous wavetable synths, not massive Serum phase plant. I guess Zebra you could throw in there too. So I don't have that synth, so I don't really. I couldn't load up a preset, but what I did get from that is that the top layer was kind of just a variant on a sine wave, which is already sort of what I was aiming for, but I was thinking it was closer to a triangle wave, but nothing I could get with a triangle wave really sounded like what I wanted it to sound like. So I continued searching a little bit more on YouTube, looking for like similar but different deep house basses so that I could see if there were any that like touched upon like the general idea of what made the sound the way it is. Not necessarily trying to get it super perfect. I ended up finding a video about a sound like this. Which I thought was, that was a pretty cool sound. I tried working with this a bunch. It ended up having a little bit too much high-end information, and I didn't want to go in and try and change the whole overtone series by hand because that's just not fun. Like, here, let me drag this over here. This is just way too much information. You don't want to have to spend all the time messing with that. So I ended up getting sidetracked here and making this sound. Which I went and made a whole track with that sound. I can make a follow-up video on that if anyone's interested. Please leave some feedback. But yeah, so once I came back to the sound after working on my own stuff for a little bit, I just decided to try and do what I was going to do with the contact organ, but with the actual Korg M1 organ. And my plan for that was just to get a short audio recording and then import it into Serum as a wavetable, because that way you basically bypass the whole process of trying to figure out what kind of waveform they're using, which trying to remake a sound with a complex waveform doesn't really ever go well. It can be extremely frustrating to nail down because there's no obvious, a lot of the time there's no obvious signs as to how to draw in the overtone series, unless it's really close to an existing waveform that you already know. And considering this is not just a pure sine, and it's not a triangle, and it's definitely not a square or a saw, I just didn't want to deal with that. So I took the video of the guy who loaded up the preset on the VST. I clipped a little bit of that and then stretched it out so I could get like a waveform view. Ended up viewing it through it deleted that. Here, zoom in and see a little preview of the waveform here. So this is sort of the shape that you're dealing with. So I took this clip, which sounds like this, and I threw that into Serum as a wavetable. And on its own, it's this one. Aha. So this is kind of similar. It's pretty close to this. But a lot of these waveforms. Oh, no, that's not it. So you can tell a lot of these waveforms were not really what I wanted. So I just combed through one by one and tried to figure out what would sound the closest, and this ended up being the pretty clear winner. So I just worked with this, threw on the low pass filter, and tried to make the sound as if, you know, it was just a pluck with some with a, you know, a basic waveform, and it's still, after everything, it wasn't quite there. So I just threw on this it was originally a sine wave. I don't really know what I did to it. This I did by hand. It's just, so this octave, this is the fifth. So I boosted the fifth a whole bunch, and then just kind of added more stuff to taste. And then, yeah, I boosted it up 19 semitones, which gives you that, it's like, there's almost more of the perfect fifth than there is of the root note here, which is kind of the key to the sound, is the parallel fifths. That's sort of house in a nutshell, is parallel fifths. So yeah, once I had the waveform right, you can hear all these effects. I'll add them in one by one, just so you can get, or I'll start with just this and then work my way towards the end. So that's already, like, that sounds pretty good, but with the filter envelope, you're like almost perfect. I threw on the compressor just because I felt like a lot of sounds like this, where it's like heavily low passed, it still sounds like there's a lot of like high mids or something, or a lot of mid range, despite it not naturally having a lot of mid range. And what compression can do is bring that up, so a sound will it'll sound dark without being dark, if that makes any sense. But yeah, it gives darker sounds a little bit more presence, and that's how I like to use it a lot. You can also like use OTT for that sort of thing in really extreme cases. Like if you have a really verbed out sound and you want to bring out some like very low quality, or like a low level quality, or like a very low resonance, you can use OTT for that. I use it all the time for that kind of stuff. It's really fun. So yeah, it brings a lot to the sound. I mean, a lot of that's just boosting the gain. So there is that. Then the delay. It that sort of gave it a lot of the movement and the rhythm that the original sound had, which I think, you know, that's important. I feel like people oftentimes neglect the subtle reverbs and delays at the ends of sounds, but that just makes it sound a little bit more professional, less like I don't know, like just drawn in MIDI notes. And then I added reverb. And just some EQ. And you're pretty much done. So yeah, simple sound, really convoluted journey. I'm going to throw these wavetables in the description, so you don't have to do that, because it's annoying. I'm not an expert at recreating sounds, and I don't expect anyone else to be. If you are interested in that sort of thing, there is a really good video by an artist named Sultan, who's like a dubstep producer, but the principles can apply to like any genre. So I definitely go check that out. I will leave a link to that. And I think that wraps up this sound. So please like, comment, subscribe, and happy sound designing.